I'm a little curious about why you chose Rwanda, Senegal, Ethiopia, of all the African countries. Why, for example, not Uganda?
The answer is we did not pick Ethiopia or Rwanda. It was those countries who picked us. The story started in March 2011 when the late Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Meles, had a meeting with Professor Justin Lin, the chief economist of the World Bank, and he's also the first chief economist in the World Bank from developing country. And then the Prime Minister asked Professor Justin's advice in terms of economic transformation and poverty reduction for developing countries. Justin told him three things. Number one, he said, job creation, it is the key for poverty reduction. Secondly, he said, the fundamental secret for economic transformation in China and Asia for tigers in the 1980s and 1960s is because they all capture the window of opportunity during industrialization relocation, which created millions of jobs for the people in the bottom of the pyramid. And that is the jump start of those countries' economic transformation. And after 30 years, golden manufacturing in China, in manufacturing, this window of opportunity opens again. 85 million jobs about to relocate out of China. Which country is going to capture that opportunity, they are going to have the same opportunity like China and Asia for tigers in the next 30 years to start their economic transformation. So the Prime Minister of Ethiopia immediately got this idea. And then he said, I believe in you, so please tell me, what am I going to do to capture this opportunity? So the last thing as a remedy, Professor Justin advised the late Prime Minister is that you need to create a quick, successful examples, because only a quick, successful example will bring inspiration, leadership, confidence, and experience to your country and to the continent. That is how the story started. 6 months later, the Prime Minister himself went to China, invited a group of companies to invest in Ethiopia. That is how we came to the country. And then everything started from that single point.
You've said before that Africa needs to be ready to tap into the relocation of live manufacturing coming out of China. What do we need to put in order here in Uganda to tap into this opportunity that obviously all of African countries are looking into tapping into?
Okay, I think traditionally we have the World Bank doing business report. You need to tick all those boxes to fill in all those enablers. That means you can then start your economic transformation. But I don't believe in that, because still, like when I came to Ethiopia, Ethiopia ranked 125 according to World Bank doing business report. According to that report, Ethiopia would not make such kind of economic transformation. But look at what happened in Ethiopia in the past 5 years. So, and the same thing like in China, China and Asia for tigers, we didn't tick all those World Bank doing business report, filling all those enablers before we started economic transformation. Basically, the history proves as a poor country, as a developing country, you don't need to look in all those kind of long lists. You can still start with your economic transformation. What's the key success? Only two things. Number one, you need to have a enabling government to identify the right path of the development. This really has been the key. This is the key success from China, Asia for tigers, and also in Ethiopia they have a very strong leadership, understanding they want to take this industrialization drive, the economic transformation, and then everybody followed. So this is number one key. Number two, as a country, you have to know what's your comparative advantage. Because in the past, people talking about maybe we have some raw material. That's our comparative advantage. But that's not the real comparative advantage. Comparative advantage for a lot of developing economy, like China in the 70s, is our people. Actually, we need to tap into our population by able to creating the industrialization, being the factory of the world. That is one of the best way to attract FDI, to help the countries to generate a lot of foreign currency, get into global value chain, because scale really matters. So that's understanding what's the comparative advantage of a country is very important.
It is. You've worked in Ethiopia and Rwanda, and I would really like that we take an example from Rwanda. From your investments there, what have you learned? What key lessons have you learned that you could transfer to us here in Uganda?
I went to Rwanda 2 years ago, and then we went to a rural trip with the people from Rwanda Development Board, and we saw some children that suffering from hunger. And then so we wrote a check, to give the government, to ask government to use their money to buy some food for those children. But you know what the people in Rwanda Development Board, they said to us? They said to us, Helen, they look at the check, they said, we don't want fish from you. We want you to teach us how to catch the fish. So please use this money to buy some machine to come to our country to teach our people how to do production for the global world. This is something really touch us. It's for us to understand what the government want, what the peoples want. So as an investor, as an outsider, we can come here to hold hand with you to drive into the same direction.
Looking at from where you're standing and from your experience, what challenges do you see Uganda facing going forward on this journey?
I think number one, we need to have a very strong leadership, understanding which the ultimate goal we want to go. And then we have to have some key state leadership, managing this kind of key success. Because I really believe quick success is the best way to bring in the inspiration, leadership, and confidence. And I think, in the past 2 days, I've been looking around the country. I think this is such a beautiful country, Uganda, and I've met the most lovely people I've ever met. The people here is so friendly. And then also I can feel that kind of willingness. They want to make a better life for their children, for their future generations there. So I think you have all the ingredients. What is really, I felt, I haven't really sensed that, which is the leadership. Want to make this big drive, understanding the path of industrialization. And I think that is very important.
What do you think we need to build investor confidence?
Bringing quick success. Because in Ethiopia, nobody believed, the global buyers didn't believe Africa able to do export. But with one shoe factory, we think to establish with less than 3 months starting to export. This is the best concrete success. And I understood in Uganda you want to develop more than 20 industrial zones. I think that's a great vision, but I would say you should also focusing to drive 1 or 2 quick success in 6 months' time. And that is the best way actually to attract future FDI, to making the demonstration effect.
When you say quick success, just break it down for me.
I would say maybe to find some low-hanging fruit of the 23 industrial zones they are going to build, and focusing in one to demonstrate what's the key bottleneck, to make a success. And then let's say we have a very concrete goal. Let's say we want to drive 5,000 jobs within 1 industrial zone within 1 year's time. Whether we can achieve that. If we can achieve that, in 1 year's time, and that the quick lesson can be then spreaded in the other 23 industrial zones. That's how to make a snowballing effect in the whole country.
We have agriculture and tourism on our table right now. Do you have any specific recommendations of how best public and private sector can maximize the opportunities available in these 2 industries?
I think tourism and agriculture is very important, but you cannot develop your economy only relying on agriculture and tourism. Because the problem for most of developing countries is scalable jobs creation. For tourism, the jobs you can create are very limited. And for the agriculture, the value added are very low. This is why industrialization have to become a very important strategy parallel to agriculture and tourism. And another thing you can see, industrialization and those agriculture and tourism are also interlinked. Looking at Ethiopia's case, today because the industrialization is happening in the country, it also drives tourism a lot. And then also the same thing in agriculture, because for example, for the shoe factory, we need local leather. That's actually driving the whole leather chain value production, which is going back to farming. And then for the textile, it's also driving to the cotton production, to the source. But then industrialization is the quick thing to get a country into the global value chain, because the global value chain, the scale is really huge, and that has always been the missing component, in African countries' economic transformation, to really get into global value chain, to making a significant impact in terms of generating FDI.
So you think our focus should be on industrialization now?
I think industrialization should be a very important strategy in the overall strategy, parallel to agriculture and also tourism. You cannot develop a country leave alone industrialization.
Our president has given a lot of attention, and he's encouraging most universities to stick more to the science subjects, to give them more attention. He wants to promote science, technology, and innovation as a way of competitiveness. Are there any parameters you see that we should stick to in that regard?
I think you have to understand what's the purpose of education. Are you trying to educate for the sake of educate? Telling people how many people I educate for a country, is that the ultimate goal? Or the education actually is to serve the country's economic development at different stage. At different stage of a country, because I think idealism has always been the pitfall for development in African countries, because we think something is very, very nice, but you are not at that stage yet. Even though, like in the past 30 years, what China's education has been really focusing for. In the 70s, we educate a lot of workers because we want to become in the world manufacturing floor. So that's for our country's development, economic development. Our education has focused on that. But then we moved up on the value chain. Then we focus on educating more people in the service area, more in science. And today, actually, China is on top of the global value chain, where actually we have a lot of scientists. But what's the countries, which stage are you? And then I think education to serve that stage of development is very important.
Our private sector credit has remained expensive in Uganda over the years, and this is in part believed to have affected the performance of most of our key sectors. How can defaults on credit be tamed?
I think if you're looking at this issue, individual issue, because most of the business in this country are SMEs. Yeah, and that has been the issue. It's about having the right business model. What I'm talking about, like the industrialization, getting into global value chain. For example, if you are able to create an industrial zone with, creating like 50,000 jobs, like what Ethiopia has just created this year in Abasa Park, it's actually going to giving a lot of orders to those driving the small media business to really expand their scale. When you have the global, get into the global value chain, the credit is then become a very minimal issue.
For somebody who's been listening throughout this interview, what should their take home be?
Okay, maybe I share with you my own personal experience. When I came to Ethiopia back in 2011, I stayed in the hotel called a Sheraton Hotel. It's like this Serena Hotel, very beautiful. After seeing what I've seen in the country, I was walking along the beautiful gardens, in the evening, digesting everything I've seen in Ethiopia. And then suddenly I hear some music back in 2011. So I followed the music. I went back to the bar, like the behind the hotel, there's a bar called the Office Bar in the Sheraton Hotel. What did I saw? I saw a lot of foreigners, white people, singing and dancing in that bar. I didn't see any locals, which remind me of a personal story when I was young. When I was 7 years old, my father is the first time my father took me to the capital of China, Beijing. At that time, there's only one 5-star hotel called Beijing Hotel. It is my birthday. My father wanted to give me a treat, so he took me to the reception. We wanted to check in. My father asked, how much is it per night? And then the people in the reception told my father, $100 per night. My father immediately said, it is too expensive, we cannot afford it. The moment he's taking me away from that beautiful Beijing hotel back in 1978, the moment I was leaving the lobby as that little young girl, 7 years old girl, I turned my head back. I look at the lobby. I didn't see any Chinese. I see all those foreign people, in the lobby. At that moment, I thought, that is a world does not belong to me. So the moment when I was in that Sheraton hotel in Ethiopia, what happened in my mind is, outside the beautiful big gate of Sheraton, there must be a lot of young girls in Ethiopia thinking exactly like me. Then their mind, inside the beautiful five-star hotel, is a world doesn't belong to me. But then my life changed dramatically. It's not because how good I am. Actually, it is because my country chose the right path of development. So what I'm saying is, outside this beautiful gate of this beautiful hotel, there must be a lot of young girls. They all want to have a different life. The only way for them actually to really transform a different life is a country can find the right path of development. So their life will be changed like mine.